empowering women by their life lessons and manifestation skills, helping you reach your dreams faster. They did it. They'll show you how without making the same mistakes they did. One cowgirl, bull-raising childless wife with multiple businesses and streams of income who is manifesting her dreams into reality. She will help you with your weight loss and wealth goals, making you healthy and wealthy. One badass boy mom with a passion for energy, healing, health, and fitness. She will help you with healing and overcoming limited beliefs to manifest the life you've always dreamt. It's Tenneile and Candace, taking life by the horns.
Welcome to our podcast, Take Life by the Horns.
And take no bull.
So today my gratitude is kind of exciting, and it's going to sound a little off, but I mean it exactly as I say it. I'm thankful for old friends. And yeah, old friends, a little bit older than me. So yesterday I had the privilege of going and having lunch and a day of shopping with 3 other girls who the youngest besides me was 16 years older than me. It was so much fun. The giggling and the laughing and just being around women that have learned that they can just be who they are. It has absolutely nothing to do with making other people happy or who's upset about this or talking about this person. It's just being who you are and enjoying it. So I just had a blast, a lot of giggling and laughing, and they shocked me and they're like, "We're starting with margaritas." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, and I'm not much of a drinker, so they learned that half a margarita got me a little tuned up. But yeah, just old friends. So I had so much fun, and I learned so much about just taking a step back and enjoying yourself for who you are and your friends and the people for who they are. Not putting any expectations on what the day would be, just enjoying it. So that's my gratitude.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I love that. Well, my gratitude actually kind of leads into the topic that we're going to discuss today, which is codependency. And I'm a recovering codependent, and I say that recovering because it kind of is an addiction. And I'm very grateful for the lessons that I learned through codependency. There's lots of lessons that I've learned, but the biggest one is self-boundaries, which kind of goes along with self-love, self-respect. You have to have those things to really get comfortable implementing boundaries. So codependency has taught me a lot, and I'm actually very grateful for those challenging experiences. So today, we're actually going to talk about codependency. I think we're going to start off with some of the signs of codependency so you can maybe identify if you are codependent. I think it is one thing that's pretty hard to identify if you're not familiar with it.
So one thing, I barely even knew what codependent meant when we were talking about this. So I've done a bunch of research, I wrote down a bunch of notes. And what I learned was a lot of people don't know what codependency means. So I think that's a great place to start. And what I learned is it's vast. And I really think everyone may have a little bit of codependent in them. It's when you let it get too far. But so first thing I learned, codependency is when someone depends on and prioritizes someone else over themselves. So making somebody else's dreams, goals, happiness more important than your own.
Yeah, it's about self-sacrifice. You sacrifice your own self, your own needs, your own desires, goals, boundaries to please somebody else. And there's reasons behind it, but that essentially is it. You sacrifice yourself for the sake of another.
So give me some examples of where you've seen, we don't, use you if you want, or just that you've seen people who were in a codependent relationship.
I mean, codependency, like you said, is so vast, and it can range anywhere from something that is very subtle, like enabling somebody else with maybe some bad patterns or behaviors in their life that don't necessarily seem detrimental, but the fact that you're enabling those types of behaviors all the way up to completely turning your life upside down to please another person so that they don't leave you, really. That's really what a lot of codependents fear, is somebody rejecting them, abandoning them, leaving them. So,
which goes into, we'll do a podcast on attachment theories, but the abandonment attachment theory, I think we have a lot of codependency under that umbrella. So making somebody else happy, living their dreams. We talk about enabling. So enabling can and usually does mean with an addict. So alcoholics, narcotics, but it doesn't always have to be with an alcoholic. I think that's one thing that hung me up a lot in the beginning when I was learning about this, was usually you see a codependency with Al-Anon, the alcoholics, the people that love the alcoholics, but it can be more. And it doesn't just have to be with our intimate spouses.
Right. No, I've seen that in my friendships. I really had a lot of woundedness and trauma throughout my life. So a lot of the relationships that I attracted in, from intimate to friendships and even work relationships, were really revolved around these very unhealthy patterns. And I could see even me enabling friends around me with unhealthy choices and behaviors because it fed me, because it kept them close to me. They weren't going to leave me and reject me. So I wasn't putting up those boundaries and encouraging somebody to live a better life, because that possibly could have meant that they wouldn't be in my life anymore. And that was scary.
So it meant more to you to be in their life than to be happy.
I know. Doesn't that sound bad? I look back now.
Yeah. Well, and it's harsh when we lay it out like that, but it is so true. And sometimes we have to look at those harshness. And I'm not picking on Candi. I definitely have some issues of my own where I have seen where I have put other people's needs way in front of mine. If you know me well, you know that I'm always the one that's first to help. I will be there for you. I will help you. I will, run any benefit and help you any way that I can. And I still will, and I enjoy those things. But it's, why are we doing this, for one? Yeah. And can you, I wrote this down too, can you spend time and energy on your own needs? Or are you dedicating all of your time and energy on other people's needs? So it's that balance, right? It's finding that balance. Because we're not saying that you shouldn't take care of other people, right, love other people, help them with their dreams and their goals. That's not codependency. It's when it is your number one job to put their needs above yours and you have no time for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of people have used the metaphor or equated to pulling the life mask down on an airplane, right? Like, you need to fill up your cup before you can fill up the cups around you. But when you're a codependent, and honestly, I think everybody has a tinge of codependency in them, because as I've really learned my hardcore boundaries, I'm paying attention to the people around me and how they're living their lives. And I see a lot of people unable to say no, unable to pull themselves back and not feel like they need to fix somebody or save somebody or pull somebody out of a situation, because we all find value within that, right? Like, we find our own value by helping somebody else, by taking care of somebody or somebody else's business, somebody else's problems. So as I look at the world around me, it really is widespread. And again, there's different variances of codependency.
Yeah. Two things I want to mention when we talk about that. For one, our value is not found in other people's happiness. So I just want to make that clear. We, as codependents, people think that, and you see that. But it's very important to know your value comes from inside. Your value comes from yourself. Validation. You only need your own validation. When I was researching and preparing for this podcast, I was actually talking to a loved one that I think very highly of. And I used that same analogy you said about using the mask on you first. And he said, I have fought years against that. Like, I hate that analogy. No, we need to help them first and then put on. He said, talk about codependent. That I fought that simple analogy for so long, but we really do, it may sound cliche, but a lot of those cliches are so true. It really is important. Take care of yourself and believe in the people that you surround with, that they can handle their own crap. They don't need your help. Now, if they ask you for their help, yeah, definitely. But they can handle their own. I see things in my own life where, and it may come from not having that mother figure when I was young, but I cannot handle when somebody mothers me. It's a quick way to send me to the hills.
Oh.
Like, and I've had friends that have just felt like they need to mother me, you know, call and make sure I did this, or just that mothering. And I didn't notice it. My husband actually told somebody who, you know, we were working on a friendship, and it's like, just FYI, if you want to be friends with Tenneile, I would not mother her like you are. She's like, but I'm Mama Bear. It's like, yeah, but she doesn't do well with that. And maybe that's the opposite of codependency, which that's narcissism, so hopefully that's not it. But yeah, I guess my point is, people don't want to be helped all the time. We are strong, we're independent. I say those words so much because I feel it so, I think everybody is, and we want to figure out our own stuff. And when people are in there trying to help, it can be hard. So it can be hard for both of us, and then that starts a cycle.
Yeah, I think it's very selfish of us to feel like we have all the answers, that we can fix somebody else's life, that we can make it better. I think that is probably one of the most selfish things we can do. I do know as a codependent, when you consider putting somebody else's needs or put your needs above somebody else's, that feels very selfish. But if you spin that and realize that who are you to think that you have all the answers and you can fix everybody's problems, that's a very selfish thing to do. And I'm really passionate about this. I think I may have messaged you about this recently, about how some people just want a friend to just be with them, right? We want to share our challenges. We want to share our struggles. We want to share our frustrations, but we don't always want you to do something about it. We just want you to be with us and just listen to us, walk through nature and not say a word with us.
Yeah. Sometimes that's you need a bouncing board. I just need to hear myself talk and know I'm not alone. Have somebody there, safe space. That's what the kind of keyword I've been hearing a lot lately. Just be in a space with me. Theo Vaughn does a great podcast, and he has a whole show where he's talking to someone. The guy started breaking down and crying, and instead of drilling him about what was going on or trying to get more out, he said, we can just sit here and, you know, take a minute.
Yeah.
And it was the most profound thing. I didn't think I would learn from Theo Vaughn. He's one of the funniest comedians. Definitely check him out. But it was so heartfelt. And I wish we could all learn that. Is just to sit with somebody and listen to them. Let them cry, let them yell, let them scream. Take ourselves out of it. And then if they want a hug, give them a hug and then move on.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't always need to do something, but as humans, for some reason, we really feel that way, right? Like, if you started breaking down and crying right here in front of me, I won't do this, but somebody else might want to be like, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay, honey. You know, try to make it better, try to make them feel right and not allow you to feel those emotions. However, I'm going to let you feel those emotions all day long because we need to, because it's healthy. Right?
Now, how do you feel about people that can't handle emotions? So they're having a discussion, someone breaks down and they cry, and they're like, I can't talk to you when you're emotional like this.
Wow. Well, I would think that would be almost the opposite, lack of empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, quite the opposite of what we're talking about.
A little emotional, unavailable. So
yeah, there's
degrees to everything. And when I was researching, so I read this book, I did a bunch of Googling and reading, and I've noticed in my personal life, there are some relationships that I'm way more codependent than others. And I think it's ones that I really want to hold on to. So if I feel like it is the center of my life, this is something that really matters, this bond is so important to me, then I'm a little more codependent, which seems like, it is. It's the exact opposite when it's somebody that you love so much that you want to keep them in your life, yet then you're not allowing them to grow, and vice versa. So also I've learned that some relationships will have two codependents. It's not always the opposite, where they're both trying to help each other, and how frustrating.
Well, and that really is the thing. When you're a codependent, you have wounds and trauma that have not been addressed. You have things within you that have not been healed and resolved. We attract into our lives. So if you have a toxic relationship with yourself, you're going to manifest toxic relations outside of yourself. And I don't mean toxic in a really bad, abusive kind of way, but enabling and codependency, those types of things are not healthy. So often, if you're a codependent, you're going to find yourself either in another codependent relationship. Sometimes they're narcissists, but as we know, narcissists are also codependents.
Yeah. So codependents aren't narcissists, but narcissists are codependents, or can be. Okay.
Can be.
Yeah. So we have two codependents together. So if they are two codependents that are ready to heal, what a very advantageous way to heal, because codependents are usually the most loving, caring, generous people. Like, this isn't necessary. I mean, it all comes from such a good place in your heart. If you're an employer, you want a codependent working for you. But if you're in a relationship and you're both codependent and you're ready to heal, I think that relationship can be saved if you're willing to be honest with each other, talk to each other, talk about what is it that caused those things and how the other person can help and not help. And do those things, because we really need to be aware.
I mean, honestly, my gratitude today initially was going to be the fact that codependency really taught me how to love, because you're right, codependents, they have this innate love for people. We want people to be happy. We want to see you successful. We want to see you succeed and achieve everything. I didn't use that as my gratitude because I don't want people to misconstrue that and think that they need to self-sacrifice to get that. I think it is a beautiful thing if two people decide to try to heal together, but that really is going to be tough because you really have to back away from one another and say, okay, I'm going to allow you to sit with this. I'm going to allow you to feel this. I'm going to allow you to struggle with these feelings and these emotions. You're going to have to handle them because I can't fix them anymore. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. I'm busy fixing myself. I don't have time to fix you as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know that we want to be fixed.
Right.
So we talk about the circle. So the caretaker, the rescuer, you know, you're helping them. When does this become negative? So it's when we're denying our needs, and then that finally you start realizing that your needs have not been met, and that's when resentment and anger comes up.
Yeah.
So that's the circle. Taking care of somebody, denying your own needs, getting resentful, and then doing it all over again. So let's talk about the resent and the anger that comes up. One thing I want to say is resentment is always your own issue. So nobody else can make you resentful. You had choices to make, and you are where you are because of those choices. So resentment will only hold you back, and you got to let those go, and you can't blame other people. So I think that would be number one in healing a codependent, is realizing the anger is okay, but the resentment is not.
I mean, that's really where I came from. And if you're close in my life and you know who I am, I was very codependent my entire life. Obviously, growing up with a traumatic and abusive childhood, I grew up very codependent. Anything I could do to please people, make sure they didn't leave me, didn't hurt me, didn't abandon me. So I attracted a lot of narcissists in my life. A lot of people don't understand how grateful and loving I am to those experiences and people, because they taught me so much. I had to recognize that my own suffering and pain came from my choices of remaining in those situations. But you're right, that cycle, we get to that cycle of resentment, and we just repeat the pattern all over again because we can't uphold those boundaries. We can't express how we're feeling. We can't express the resentment that we have because that person might get mad and leave us, right? So then we just hop right back into people-pleasing mode.
Yeah. So there's a book called The Disease to Please, and my dad had the book. My stepmom gave it to him, and I remember him saying, no, I like to please people. And at that time I was like, yeah, what's wrong with pleasing people? Now I'm learning, oh, that's codependency, the disease to please, and that it's not selfless, it's selfish, because we're pleasing other people so they will validate us, And then when we don't get that validation, we get angry and upset because I gave you so much and you couldn't give me anything. So back into that circle again.
I feel like we could talk about this topic for days, and I think we'll probably do several more episodes on different aspects of codependency because it's so vast and so deep, and I see it affect so many people around me in their day-to-day lives, and you know, honestly, in our intimate relationships really is where it affects us the most. I mean, I see it in work and coworkers and friendships and things like that, which is equally detrimental to us. But when we get involved in those intimate relationships, I really think it takes a toll on us, a toll on our self-esteem and our self-worth.
So I have a friend, we talk on this Marco Polo group, there's 4 of us, and she was talking about how she's just really frustrated and she's burned out. Nothing is really working for her anymore. She's been zoning out in front of the TV, binge eating. It all started as a weight loss group. And we've been good friends for a while. And I told her, it's like, you know, I get it. You're frustrated. You're angry. You give so much to everybody else because she's been spending her time helping everybody else at work, her children, her husband, everything. It's like, when is it going to be your turn? When is it, I don't want to say her name, when is it your turn? I get that you're frustrated. And the zoning out, the watching TV, the eating, the binging, those are our ways to cope and deal with it so we don't have to deal with the actual emotions that are deep down. And I told her, I actually went back and listened to what I said because I felt like I was talking to myself. I told her, it's like, take all that energy, all that great advice that you've been giving to everybody else and use it for you. Take time for you now because they've got it. Like, you gave it to them. So they're going to use it or not use it. You've done what you could. But now it's your time. Everything that you've been telling other people to do, start doing it yourself. And I hope it works, but I feel like I needed that information too.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we're talking to people, all the times, right? It's a mirror. We talk about the mirror. But even the codependency relationships, we're trying to help them. Let's take that advice that we're giving them and use it for ourselves.
I will say, if you are a codependent out there, or even if you're just somebody who recognizes you have some of these codependent traits, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you're a codependent. We all have codependent traits, and that's just the reality of it. But if you're somebody who's trying to fix it, but especially if you're a codependent, and I can say this personally, as I've worked through this myself. In fact, Codependent for Dummies was the first book I checked out, and I checked out lots of other codependent books to try to heal this, but you're going to feel selfish. And that's just the reality of it. You're going to feel heartless. You're going to feel cold. You're going to feel uncaring. And it's because it's not natural to you. It's because it's uncomfortable to you. It's not anything you've experienced before. So I just want you guys to be prepared out there and ready as you start to heal this. You're gonna feel these uncomfortable emotions. You're gonna feel cold and heartless, and be okay with it. Love yourself the most, because you can only love others as deeply as you love yourself. And I really want you to hear that again. You can only love others as deeply as you love yourself. So if you're not honoring yourself and giving yourself time and loving yourself, you are depriving others of the love that they deserve.
I love that. So we're going to go into ways to heal the codependent, but before we do, I want to say one more thing, well, 2 more things actually. If you are listening to this because you think somebody in your life may be codependent and that you could help them by listening to this, you are codependent. If you're listening to this because you think that you may be codependent and you want to learn how to be better, you may or may not be codependent. If you're listening to this because you're a friend and you just want to support us, thank you so much. I heard this story I wanted to share real quick when we were talking about if you know if you're codependent. Kind of a joke, did you hear about the codependent that kissed the frog?
No.
She turned into a frog. So, she thought she was going to kiss the frog and get the prince, but instead she turned into a codependent. So that's how codependents will attract other codependents, because we think that they are our knight, our shining armor, our prince, when we're all just a bunch of frogs. And it's okay. Let's just all be frogs and learn how we can be our own knight, our own prince.
Absolutely.
So ways to heal codependency. Be aware. Be aware of what you're saying, who you are, and that you're ready to take responsibility for yourself instead of somebody else.
Yeah, being aware of what you're doing, how you're interacting with others, what you're doing for other people. Be aware of what you're doing and why. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this? Pay attention to how you feel inside. Do you feel like you're betraying yourself and that you're sacrificing yourself? Because those are going to be red flags for you and things you need to pay attention to.
Yeah, very good. So the reasoning, it's not always what you're doing, it's the reason you're doing it.
And what you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
What are you getting out of doing these things for other? What are you getting out of it?
And were you asked to help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of times we just offer our help in and nobody asked for help. Were you asked for the help?
Yep.
Okay. Setting boundaries. So learning to set boundaries. Oh, this one I've been working on, and this is hard. Like you said, you start feeling very selfish. But learning that I can't do that for you anymore. Where your boundaries are, and they're going to be different for everybody. Setting them and then letting people know. So you can't just set a boundary and then be upset when somebody crosses your boundary because you didn't have boundaries before.
Yeah.
So you got to let people know, I have set this boundary and I'm going to be steadfast on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard. You're going to have it in your head that you're going to start implementing boundaries. Nobody's going to cross them, but people are used to crossing them and you're not used to upholding them. So it's going to be a process. Be patient with yourself, love yourself, give yourself some grace. It's going to be hard, but you can do it.
So that give yourself grace leads into the next one. So a lot of times codependents are very hard on themselves. So the personal talk, the internal talk is very negative. Why didn't you do this? You're not good enough for that. Just very, very negative. Just give yourself some grace. You are wonderful. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody wants you to be perfect. You are exactly where you need to be in your life for this time. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Do you feel that most codependents are very hard on themselves? They're worst critics?
Oh, 100%. That's why we seek validation and value through other people. Yeah, we don't have that within ourselves naturally.
Yeah, so and then that brings us to the self-love.
Mm-hmm.
So love yourself. And, you know, there are things you can do. Like, it's easy to say, oh, love yourself. Well, what are some things to show yourself that you do love yourself? Eating properly, not zoning out in front of the TV and binging on chips.
Yeah. Yeah, self-love is absolutely key. And it is exactly how you treat yourself. Like you said, some of those day-to-day activities, yes. Are you feeding yourself right? Are you doing things that promote a happy, healthy life? But often it's also not allowing people to treat you or talk to you a certain way. You know, sometimes people think you deserve crumbs and, you know, you don't really deserve all of their attention or all of their time, you know, that you deserve. And it's drawing the boundaries on those types of relationships and situations and knowing that you are worth so much more. But it takes a lot of work. If you're a true codependent, it takes a lot of digging. I mean, I'll be honest, my codependency stemmed from lots of trauma in my life, and I really had to sit in my closet by myself at times, cry myself, and really dig down deep and figure out what was going on, why I felt these things, why I felt like I so desperately needed somebody in my life.
Yeah. Why is it always in the closet? Because I've had to sit in the closet and cry too.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that metaphor coming out of the closet is not a cliche at all either.
We won't even go there. So be selfish, make yourself a priority.
Yeah.
when people approach you with things and you're like, well, I don't know if I should do that, stop and ask yourself, will this make me happy? Will this make myself a priority? And then maybe decide. So make yourself a priority.
Yeah. Again, why? So if somebody asks you to do something and you're on the fence about it, and you say yes, even though you don't feel great about it, why are you saying yes?
Yeah. So what if you're saying yes, it's not something that you want to do, but because you feel like in the end you will actually obtain some happiness from it?
Well, then that's different, right? Because if you're feeling peace and you're feeling comfort, and there's a level of joy there and self-fulfillment, because I don't do everything I want to do. Some things are hard. Some, we don't love everything. But if the outcome is going to lead to some kind of self-fulfillment, then I think you're on the right track.
I think that's the key word there, self-fulfillment.
Yeah.
If you're expecting that in the future the other person will bring you happiness, then that's not self-fulfillment, and that doesn't work. That's still on the codependency side.
Just saying yes, so somebody doesn't, I mean, let's be real, right? People ask us to do something and we'll say no, we don't feel like it. I don't need her to give you a reason. It doesn't have to be a reason. I don't feel like doing it. But you encounter those people who are like, oh, but why? Really? You're not gonna, you never do anything, right? And then they guilt you or try to guilt you. Yeah.
Those are codependent.
You can't do that anymore.
Yeah. That's one thing I usually always give an explanation, and I'm trying to learn to say no. Yeah. And then that's the end of it. Will you do this? No.
Yeah. And it feels awful.
I just don't feel like it. Yeah, it does feel awful. No is a very difficult word. And it's the first word for a lot of people. Mama, dada, no. Those are usually your first three words.
Yeah.
But we forget no somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, but you're so right.
Yeah. I hadn't either until right then. Be selective with your support. So not everybody deserves your support. Are those people even deserving of it? Do they want your support? That's the first question. Do they deserve your support? That's the second question. Do you want to give them your support? And then if you can answer yes to those, then you can give support. If not, then you're being codependent and you should give yourself the support.
Right. Yeah, those are all great things. I'm a person now who really recognizes the power of energy, and if I'm going to utilize my energy, time, and attention to help you, I'm going to make sure I'm placing it in a place where it's wanted, it's deserved, and it's going to bring value to myself and to the other person. But I don't just give my energy away freely anymore.
Yeah. So hard to come by energy sometimes. You really got to use it for yourself.
Because again, it goes back to, that's that cliche that you need to fill your cup up first. I know it sounds silly, and we're so used to hearing that our entire lives, but it is real.
No, it is. And then feel your own feelings. So be strong enough to feel those deep, hard emotions. And because we're critical, I think a lot of times those feelings will start going to inadequacy. And it's hard to feel that because it's the exact opposite. But recognize that you're having feelings of inadequacy and that that's not who you are. And build yourself back up. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think feelings is a big topic to talk about. We're not used to feeling bad feelings, right? We talked about earlier how if a friend is sitting next to us and they're struggling with their emotions and they're crying, they're sad, they're upset, we want to fix it. We want to make sure they don't feel that anymore. And the reality is we need to feel those emotions. So when I'm sitting in my closet by myself, feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling deserted, feeling abandoned, feeling like, why doesn't anybody want me? I need to feel those feelings. You can't make that better for me, right?
No.
My best friend, my partner, they can't make those feelings go away from me. But we're so used to, as a society, to think that those are bad, right? Yeah. And they're not bad, because if we didn't know pain and heartache, we wouldn't know love and joy.
Yeah. And as a friend of someone who's going through this, that doesn't mean just to walk away.
Right.
Sit with them, let them cry it out, hug it out sometimes, let them talk it out, be there with them. Don't run from their emotions either. Let them, sometimes you just need somebody in your corner.
Yeah.
Here we go with another cliche, but so good, is the fastest way through hell is through it.
Yeah.
So you got to keep walking, because once you stop, you're going to stay there. So keep walking. And I kind of tell myself that. It's like, okay, this hurts really bad, but I don't want to feel this way anymore. So I'm going to have to sit with it so I can get through it.
Well, and I think another thing to bring up that is really pertinent to people is we get stuck in hell by replaying these situations and these things that happened to us that we think caused pain and heartache in our life, caused us to feel like we weren't wanted, caused us to feel abandoned. And replaying those keeps you stuck there. So know it happened, let it go. It is not a reflection of you, right? The way people treat us is not a reflection of who we are. It doesn't determine our value and our worth at all. So don't replay. I don't know how many years I spent replaying sad songs over and over because it fed the sadness within inside me, right? It just perpetuated where I was and prevented me from getting out of that place. So scratch the sad songs, scratch the story that you're not good enough, somebody rejected you, scratch it all. It hurt, it sucked, get through it, let it go, feel those emotions and release them.
Yeah. Quit letting some bullcrap story ruin your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely.
Stop replaying it.
Yeah. Let it go. And that was my next one. Live and let live, let go and let God. Quickest way to be sane and happy is to tend to your own affairs, not other people's affairs. Tend to your own affairs.
Yeah. Yeah. But as a codependent, that's what we do. We focus on somebody else because oftentimes we're focusing on other people so we don't have to focus on ourselves. We're trying to fix other people so we don't have to fix ourselves. So focus on yourself.
Yeah. So we talked about anger, and it's anger and resentment is part of this cycle of codependency. So a lot of times I think when we talk about feelings and different feelings that we don't feel are natural, anger is one of them. But it's okay to be angry, but we need to learn ways to burn off that anger besides accusing other people, getting upset at someone else when they had this is some story that you're in, you think they are asking for your help and you're angry and resentful for it. So some of those ways to burn off that anger, scream it out in your closet, in your pillow.
Driving down the interstate in a car.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Exercising.
Yes.
Lifting weights, lifting heavy, strong weights, going for a hike, like pushing your body to the limits.
Well, I've said the reason I've manifested health in my life is because I've taken a lot of the pain that I have felt over the last year or so. I've taken it to the gym and released it all. And guess what? What I have worked on the outside or the inside has manifested now on the outside. So it's been a win-win for me.
Yeah, that's great. So that vicious cycle can work in a good way when we learn it and we can utilize things for ourselves.
Yeah, great.
Let's see. If I stand up for myself, they'll leave me. So that's something I put down as, if you're codependent, if you're scared to speak your truth because they might leave, that's a codependency sign.
Yeah, if you can't be honest with them about how you're feeling and about what's going on in your life because you're fearful that they're going to react, that they're not going to validate you, that they're not going to be able to sit with you and be your friend in that moment, whether it's your partner or a friendship, doesn't matter. If you're afraid that they're going to walk out and leave you because of the way you feel, red flags. Yeah.
Red flag. So I think we gave a lot of really good ways to help cure. Can we cure codependency, or do you feel like you always will be?
I think we had this conversation a little bit ago. I honestly am was a very strong codependent. I feel like I am a recovering codependent at this time. I told you earlier, I still am very aware of my behaviors why I'm doing the things I do, why I allow things that I allow, and how I feel about those things. So I hope one day that maybe it won't be as prominent and as much in the forefront of my life, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know if that completely goes away. I mean, I think we always need to be aware of what we're doing, why we're doing it. I mean, we talk about that manifestation, being aware of our thoughts, our feelings. So I think it's just something we always need to be aware of.
Yeah. I think the alcoholics got it right, one day at a time.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Yeah. And they do say, you know, if you are a codependent and you really are looking for help, there is a lot of self-help. Al-Anon is a great place to go, honestly, for codependency. Even though it has nothing to do with alcoholism, you can join Al-Anon. I think they also have Codependent Anonymous groups.
Yep, they do. Codependence Anonymous, about the 70s. I learned that today, actually.
Okay.
They started coming out with that. There's books. We'll put some books in the comments. Codependency No More. Codependency for Dummies, apparently.
Yeah, it's a nice little workbook.
Yeah.
And you know, I joined a Facebook group. I joined several Facebook groups as well. And because it's really hard to talk about these things if somebody can't identify with you, right? If somebody really isn't seeing these things and feeling these things with you. So support groups like that, like, even if you can't find one in your area, there are online support groups that really did help support me and get me through day to day.
Yeah. And you've always got us. Comment, let us know. And so I have a question for you, and we say this is going to be raw, authentic, so kind of a different question. Doing a podcast where we're trying to help other women and empower other women, are we being codependent?
I don't think so. I mean,
I know the answer that I think.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. I mean, I feel like this is a give and take relationship right now. This really is my soul's calling. I feel like a lot of the things I've gone through in my life, a lot of the challenges that I've overcome has brought me to this point in life to be somebody who can be a way shower, somebody who can walk with you and totally understand where you're at. So I feel like this is part of my purpose in life.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think it's, again, we go back to the reasoning. So we're doing this because of the way it helps us. So I'm learning right alongside Candi, alongside you guys, about codependency in this podcast, about manifestation in the next podcast. So we're learning together, we're growing together. That's self-fulfilling. And also, we're not making anybody sit and watch our podcast, except maybe the dogs that are right here. So yeah, but that was one thing I wanted to touch on. Because I've loved self-help since junior high. I was sitting in the library reading self-help books. That was probably a sign.
Yeah.
But it's also a sign of callings and passion. Yeah. So I think that's a great thing.
Absolutely.
Before we end this, is there anything else you want to tie up on codependency?
I mean, I think we really covered a lot of it. I think we could dive in a lot deeper in certain aspects and really where a lot of this comes from, and identifying a lot of those wounds and how to heal a lot of those wounds. But I think we've given our viewers a really good overlay of what codependency is, some of the signs and symptoms of that, some of the things that they can do to start on a recovery or start changing those characteristics within themselves. So I look forward to diving into this a little bit deeper sometime in the future.
Yeah, we can go into the whys, why, and our different stories of why we think we may have led to that.
Yeah.
So we can do that. Well, Candi, I want to just really thank you for being open and honest with everybody about your codependency. I know that wasn't easy, just putting it all out there. So we really appreciate it. I've learned so much when we decided to do this codependency, and I started researching it and reading into it, and just eye-opening. And, you know, definitely some things in my own life that I need to work on. So I appreciate that. And yeah, thank you guys for being with us. Take Life by the Horns, where we are on a mission to empower 1 million women to step into their power, believe in their ability to live the life of their dreams, and fearlessly take life by the horns. Thank you.
Thank you.